I've been a TextExpander user for quite a few years now, but when Tacoma from TextExpander reached out to me to see if I wanted some free, private, one-on-one training, I definitely jumped at that opportunity because I know there are more ways I could be using the software to be more productive. So when I got on the call with Tacoma, thankfully she allowed me to record this call so I could share it with you and share all the really cool tips and tricks she taught me during the training. Now, down below in the description, you'll find a link where you can save 20% on TextExpander if you're not a current user. That is an affiliate link, by the way. And you'll also find within the description a link to a blog post that I wrote to go along with this that shares some of the ways I use TextExpander and maybe some additional tips and tricks that you might not know of yet. So let's get to the training. So I'll tell you my number one hack that I love right now with TextExpander is I've saved all my favorite emojis in there. So I can
Okay, I
just
love
type
that.
like period
Yes.
sweat, and then it's the
Yes.
little
The
emoji guy with the
sweating. Yeah.
sweat. Yeah, all
I
the
love it.
time. So I have a whole list, if I could remember to use all of them, of my emojis. So
Oh,
that one,
cool.
email addresses, website addresses. I've put in like some of my license keys. I do, since we do a lot of software stuff, there, like
Sure.
every bit of software needs some kind of license key. So
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
put some of those things in there. One thing in our community, there's a guy that developed this like email script you send to your clients every Friday to kind of update them on where the project's at, what we're done, blah, blah, blah. So I've put that in there where I could just
Good.
fill in the blank.
Oh, good. So you use fill-ins.
Yes,
Okay, so
absolutely.
fill-ins is the number one underutilized feature. That's what I usually spend most of my time showing folks. So maybe we can go a little deeper. Although I'll be
Yeah.
honest with you, TextExpander is a very simple software. There's not that many layers, and that's why I love it
Right.
so much. It's like it does what it does. But maybe I can wow you on, maybe I can't. If you know
No.
fill-ins, I might be behind the eight ball
Well,
here.
I will say I've done zero training whatsoever. So I like opened up the program and just
Well,
started using it. So I'm sure I'm not using it to its full extent. And then I'll
well,
forget to use it, which is my
you'll
biggest
forget to use it.
problem.
Okay, well, I got a hack for that. So
Okay.
remind me if I don't remind you. All right, so
Fantastic.
let's just go create. I'm gonna share my screen. Sorry, I was doing all that and wasn't even sharing. Let's go over fill-ins just to make sure that you're using all the fill-ins that, or you can see what all they can do.
Sure.
I'm gonna create a new snippet. All right, and my favorite tip is always default your content type to formatted text and pictures. Obviously, plain text is what you normally get, but you only have this amount of options with plain text. With formatted text and pictures, as you can see, you get a lot more options. If you don't want to change that every time you create a new snippet from plain text to formatted text and pictures, right up under your login name, there is this preferences option. You're going to choose that and then scroll down to about the third box. And when it says when creating snippets, just change that from
Mm,
plain text to formatted text and pictures. And that way it'll always default to that.
nice.
All right. So let's create an email, and let's create an email not unlike the one that you have already, your script, your template. So just so you know, you can put the subject and the body of an email in the same snippet. I'm not sure if you do know that, but I want to show you and anyone else that might see this. Let's say, what would be the subject of that typical email?
So Friday project update.
Friday project update. I don't know why it always says that. Friday project update. All right, that's the subject. Now, that's what we would normally type in the subject line of this email. But since we're putting it in our snippet, we're going to tell TextExpander to tab down and expand the rest of this email in the body. So to insert a keyboard macro, you're going to go to the keyboard icon and then just click tab. It'll insert that tab there. Now you can say, hi, and then customer name or client name. To use that fill-in, you're going to go to the fill-in or the form icon, and then we're going to use a single line. There's a single line field, a multi-line field, an optional section, and a pop-up menu. Single line is when you want to be prompted to fill in anything that only takes up one line. Multi-line is when you want to be prompted to fill in something that may take up more than one line. And then the optional section would be for language that you say to some people when you send this email out, but maybe you don't say it to other clients when you send this email out. You can decide at the time of expansion whether you want to include it. And then the pop-up menu gives you a menu of options. And then I'm going to show you what the show at top does once we get all our fill-in. So let's just do
Sweet.
dear client name. Go ahead. Did you have a
No,
question?
you're good. I think the only
Okay.
one I've ever clicked on is the single line field. So the
Okay,
rest will all
awesome.
be new to me.
Good, good. So let's do client name. Obviously, we're not going to put a default value here because if we put Joe here or some other name here or something here, it's going to always expand that every time we hit the abbreviation. So we'll leave that blank. So dear client name, comma. Help me out here, Kyle. What would be some language you put? Here is your project. Oops. Update.
And it might even be good to put 4 and then the date in there. That would be awesome.
Yes. Now here's the option. If you ever want to expand the date, the current date, or maybe you send this email out on the day of, or maybe you send it out 3 days in advance or behind, whenever. We have a date option where I want to expand, since I send this out, on the day of, I can put the current date, which is, Monday or whatever. But you would use this calendar icon and you would just construct how you want it to look. So I wanted to say Monday, comma, space, January, space, and then I'm going to pick the day, how I want it displayed. I can do day 2 numbers or 1, and I'll do 2 numbers. Then I'm do a comma, space, and then the year. However I want the year displayed. I can do 01 or 2001, and we'll do 2001. All right. Now, if I wanted to add 3 days to this, or 3 days in the past, because I'm sending this 3 days later, I could go to this calculator icon here, and I'm going to do subtract 3 days, since I send it, 3 days. So I'm going to subtract, oops, I put it in the wrong place. Let me erase that real quick. I'm going to put it at the beginning of the date, and I'm going to subtract 3 days. All right, so it's going to subtract 3 days from this Monday, January 1st of 2001. All right, so now a multi-line fill-in is for when you want to fill in something that takes up more than one line. So now would be a good time to put in maybe the project update if you have it in a line. So I'm going to do project update. Now, if it remains the same pretty much, but I switch out some of the numbers, I might go ahead and give myself a head start and put like what doesn't change. Like maybe some of this stuff doesn't change.
So
I have no idea.
Usually we do is like what we usually do is like a past, present, future. So like this week we did X.
Gotcha.
Here's where we are today, and next week we'll be working on. So that kind of formats.
Let's do this. Yeah,
section.
this week. Oops. Why is it? All right, this week. Next week, was it this week, next week, and today?
Yeah, like this week where we're at presently, and next week. So like past, present, future.
All right, past, where we're at. All right, so we can already have that filled in if you wanted to. That way we can just copy and paste, or I don't know, whatever you do, whatever you smart people do. So we'll make that a multi-line fill in. Then maybe we suggest, maybe you have some, how about I spell right? We suggest maybe you have some.
I also use TextExpander to fix all the things I can never spell correctly.
Exactly. We suggest, and then maybe there's a menu of items depending on the update that you would suggest. Well, we could use the pop-up menu fill in. Project suggestions. We'll call it project suggestions. And then maybe one suggestion would be what? We're making this up.
Let's say get on a call.
Get on a call. What would another suggestion be?
Follow up next Friday.
Following up next Friday. And then one more just for good measure.
Oh man.
Let's say schedule a meeting.
There you go.
All right. Then maybe there is some language that you say to some clients, but you don't say to them all clients. It just depends on some variables. We're going to insert an optional section. The optional section, you can decide whether you want that text included at the time of expansion. So we'll call this, I'm just going to name it Meetup. You can include it by default if you say it more times than not. If you usually don't, if you say it rarely, then you can just uncheck that include by default. And then we'll say, let's get together for a brainstorming session. And then lastly, let's end this email with our signature. Now, if you already have a snippet of your signature, I would suggest nesting that signature. We call that nesting, but it's really inserting a snippet within a snippet. To do that, you'll go to this keyboard icon, and then I'm just gonna hit insert snippet. It's gonna ask me, what's the abbreviation of this? Go ahead.
I didn't even know that was possible.
Yes, it's a continuum of snippets. I know, Kyle. So I have the abbreviation XSIG for my snippet, and I'm gonna show you why you wanna nest more snippets than not. And I'll show you that in a second. So that's my signature snippet. I nested it there. I'll give this a label, project update, email. I'll give an abbreviation. All right, now we're ready to expand. And when we get ready to expand, remember, we included the subject in this snippet. So we're gonna put our cursor and expand in the subject. All right, so I'm gonna type in PUE, and it will immediately let me know, hey, you've got some fill-ins to fill in. The client name, all right? It's all ready, so I can fill in here, you know, where the project is. So the project is here this week, this week, this is where we're at presently, and this is where we're gonna be at next week, all right? I can choose my suggestion, all right? And then I can decide whether I wanna include this. Because I didn't include it by default, it's not checked. If I decide I want to include it, I'll just check it. Now, when I hit okay, that email is done, right?
It's brilliant.
Now, the beauty, oh, I spelled your. The beauty of nesting a snippet is, let's say it's the holidays and I wanna start changing my signature from saying cheers to happy holidays. Well, instead, if I would have just typed my title out here, my signature out here, I would have had to come back to this snippet, erase cheers, put happy holidays. But because I nested it, all I have to do to update it is go to the original snippet, which in this case is XSIG. I change it here. And now when I expand this same snippet or any snippet that I have that's nested in, it automatically updates to happy holidays.
Brilliant.
So nesting is really good for stuff that changes every once in a while. Policies and procedures, you know, contract agreements that you can nest it so that when you update frequently asked questions, you could just go to the original snippet, update it there, and it will update every place that you nested it. So that's the beauty of nesting a snippet, or yeah, we call it nesting, inserting a snippet within a snippet. Again, one thing that we kind of glossed over is that date. It automatically calculated 3 days from now. So I don't have to remember, you know, I got to put 3 days from now and do that calculation in my head. I can do that. I can do that to subtract. I can do it for years. I can do it for the time also, using the clock icon. So that's really the best way to use fill-ins, is to put them in your templates, and then you can personalize all those variables by using the fill-ins. How's that sound?
That's fantastic. I hadn't looked at any of those things except just the single line one. So that's good to know. That gives me more ideas.
Now here's that show at top. Remember, I wanted to show you show at top. Let me find our snippet that we just created. Here it is. All right, so we have a lot of fill-ins. Not really a lot, but for us. A lot of fill-ins. You'll notice that when you expand that abbreviation, which in our case is PUE, I have to like tab between client name, and then I got to go down here and check. If you have a lot of fill-ins, you might be going a lot of different places in this box right here alone. Well, the show at top, the beauty of using that show at top, which is in the fill-in form icon, and clicking that show at top. Now, when I expand this snippet, it's only going to give me the things that I need to make decisions on. It doesn't give me the entire email. It just says, what's the client name? Did you want to fill anything else here in your multi-line? Which selection did you want to choose? Do you want to include that meetup language? So it's not like giving me the entire document that I have to kind of like tab through to get to all the places I need to make decisions on. It shows all of my fill-ins at the top of that box. Now, of course, when I hit expand, once I fill in this information, when I hit expand, it expands the entire thing. But just for that box, it just shows me what I need right now. So that's what show at top means.
Fantastic. I didn't know that one either.
Yeah.
Can I get your advice on like the prefixes used for things? I noticed when you just did yours, you didn't use a prefix. I use a prefix on all mine, but sometimes my prefixes get in the way of other things.
They get in the way. So here's the thing that one, there's a couple of things that I'm kind of reckless. So maybe don't do what I do. I'm reckless. I name my stuff whatever I want to name it, because when the time comes, I'm not going to remember the abbreviation anyway. What I'll do, I'll try to make it not reckless where I would accidentally expand it while typing. That's why X's are really good for abbreviation beginnings. But if you're not in TextExpander, you're living your life, okay? You're in your, whatever it is that you're working on, and you're not in TextExpander, it's closed. On a Mac, if you put, press Command / TextExpander search box comes up. Now, all I'm doing is looking for that one that has, I know it's PUE. Well, now I don't have to worry about accidentally typing it because I know I want to use on a snippet anyway. Now I can hover over it and see, is this the one I want? Yep, this is the one I want. All I have to do is click on it and it expands immediately. Let me show you. So you don't have to memorize any of your abbreviations. You just do Command / whatever you can remember. Maybe I know it had something about a meeting in it. So I could type meet. All my snippets that have the word meet in the title or in the actual snippet will come up. If I hover over it, it tells me what it means. And then all I have to do is, click on it. In this case, I'll click on it. I'll fill in what I need to fill in. I hit OK and it expands. Brilliant. So I'm kind of reckless about naming mine, but I will say I love prefixes. What I do with my prefix is I usually put a dot in the prefix. So let me open TextExpander again. So these are my buyers. This is my group called Buyer's Attorney. My prefix is BUY dot. So that's what I have to type before the abbreviation in order to get it to expand. The dot kind of serves as my delimiter, basically. Mm-hmm. When I hit the dot, that's when it, kind of triggers. It's not another, snippet abbreviation. So I love the idea of prefixes. I just usually put a dot in all my prefixes.
Gotcha.
But for my snippets that I use a lot of, I usually don't do the groups or whatever. But ones that could conflict with actual words, I put an X in front of them. But otherwise I do phonetically, Perfect. Like usually I never type net foo as a word. So I'm not going to accidentally expand that, but I could, for exam test maybe. So I try to use X's for ones that are actual words like Q. I would normally type QCUE, but I will never type XQ unless I'm trying to expand something. So X is a good, delimiter in my opinion. But again, if you use that Command / on a Mac, on a PC, it'll be Control /.
Okay. Was that the tip you had for?
Yes, that's the tip I had for never having to remember your.
Okay.
You don't have to remember any of your snippets or abbreviations. Whenever you're not in TextExpander, and it only works when TextExpander is closed, because when it's open, you can just go up here and search. But when it's closed, you have no idea what, anything is. So you do Command / and then, of course, hold on. Command / this comes up and you just type in what you know.
Perfect. All right, let me ask you this. I imagine you've talked to a lot of people using TextExpander, a lot of your customers. What are some of the out-of-the-box ideas people are using it for? I'm always curious because I think I'm limited by my imagination.
Yes, and I think what I think people don't realize is Snippet. gives you the idea that it's a small thing. It should be small, but no, it can be as long. I have lawyers who have entire arbitration agreements in the snippet. So they use fill-ins to kind of customize it. But yeah, it can be as long as you want. If you have a partnership agreement that you send out to clients, have it in a snippet. Use those fill-ins, and you can just kind of expand it when you get ready. So tech support users use it for, frequent replies to customers. There's a table, you can create a table, and I'll show this to you because this might come in handy one day. But let's say there's a table that you send out frequently. You can create a table in TextExpander to ask you how many columns you need, how many rows you need, and then you can use fill-ins within that. Let's say you had one customer name, customer project, and then here you could insert a fill-in. And create snippets around the workflow that you need. So then when you expand this, here, you would, type in the customer name. And the table would come up. So you could do that for any number of applications. I know my tech support people use this for like tickets or something like that. Name of the ticket, how it was resolved, steps to take. And then it's for reports. A lot of people might use the table for reports. So you could create tables for that. But yeah, I mean, it really just depends on the workflow. Everyone uses TextExpander differently, and there's no wrong way to use it. I was just on a call, the gentleman I was telling you about before, he was just like, I just use, there's one word I use it for, and I love it for that. And then I got another snippet that is the plural version of that one. And then so when I showed him fill-ins, it was like, oh, wow, there's so much more I could be using this for. So, it's really just up to your workflow. But I would say fill-ins is the main feature that will allow you to customize TextExpander to be used anywhere.
Yeah, I'll say in my line of work, I use a lot of snippets of code on different website projects over and over and over. And there's somewhere I need to change out a color or something like that. But I always forget like exactly how the line of code needs to be written. And I'll put those things in TextExpander so I don't forget.
So let me show you something. I'm glad you said that. Thank you. So let's say this is just a little tip. It may not be used with code, but there's a couple of things I want to show you that I think you will find helpful. We have something called Clipboard. Let's say that you have a line of code. Do you usually go to you copy that code before you paste
absolutely.
it? Okay. So we have let me just delete this and start over. We have a keyboard macro called Clipboard. So let's say there's a report where you put a line of code here and there. All right. Well, instead of copying and pasting it in your final document, we have a keyboard macro called Clipboard. So if I insert Clipboard there, automatically when this expands, the last thing I put on my clipboard will expand there also. So let's say that I want to insert this snippet somewhere. All right, so now I want to insert this code somewhere. I'm going to go to I'm going to go to that place that has the code, and let's just say it has it. We'll call this Let's Chat the code. I'm going to hit copy, put it on my clipboard. Now, when I hit this abbreviation, EX, it automatically puts whatever I copied on my clipboard there. So I copied Let's Chat to my clipboard. I typed this abbreviation, and whatever I copied to my clipboard will automatically expand in that position where I put clipboard.
That's
So
awesome.
that's one thing that I think you'll find helpful. Another thing you'll find helpful is if you name things when you're doing your single line fill-in or multi-line fill-in or whatever fill-in you have, if you name it, I think this works best for single line field. If you name it the exact same thing, you won't have to retype it. So let's say you have an email. Let's go back to this email that we created, project update. Let's say you have client name here, and then you in with the client name here. You want to put a fill in here. Well, I want to add another single line field fill in. If I name it client name also, the exact same fill in name that I did in the beginning, it will, when I type it in, will expand the same name. This is really good if you're putting the same thing in different points in a contract or a document.
Right.
So now when I expand this, PUE, I put client name here. All right, let's not do the show at top. Let's do it here so you can see it happening. So I have client name here and I have client name here. As I type the client name, you'll see that it's also typing it this other place that I have client name. So that I don't have to type it every place it has client name. The only thing you got to do is just make sure that you name it the exact same thing, client name, client name. You can't put client name one place and then customer name another place and expect them both to fill in at the same time. So that may be something that's helpful for you. That could be helpful for what, when you're putting code, the same code in different places. You could call this place, this one, Microsoft code, and call it the exact same thing at the other place you need Microsoft code or whatever. I don't know.
Sure.
As
can I ask you one more question?
I know what I'm talking about. Yeah, go ahead.
Good.
Yeah, I don't have a meeting after you, so go ahead.
Okay. So one thing that I've tried to do, and I feel like sometimes I was successful and sometimes I wasn't, was telling it to move the cursor to a certain spot after the code is expanded. Isn't that possible?
It is possible, but here's the secret. I don't know how to do it. Oh, I think it's the position cursor here. Is this what you've tried before? Okay, let's try it.
So
we're gonna learn it together, Kyle.
All right, sounds good.
All right, so you have, let's create a new snippet because I'm getting too confused. So you have code. So tell me what your scenario is. I want to make sure I duplicate it.
Yeah. So my guess is, similar to like a fill-in. I'm trying to think of where I was using. I can't think of a great example off the top of my head, but it was basically like after I expanded this, I needed to go back up here and change something. So it was nice to already, here it is. So when we're putting in comments in code, so just like the code isn't going to execute, but it's for humans to read. You have to put something at the beginning of that comment, and then you have to put something at the end of that comment, and then your comment goes in the center, right? So let's just say, for an example, you had to put like a little bracket, right? Open a bracket or parentheses or something. Then you had to close the parentheses at the end, but you needed your cursor to be back in the middle so you could type in whatever that comment may be.
Okay, so let me try it. Oops.
So we'd want the cursor to be like inside the brackets.
Inside the bracket. Okay, let's see if this works. So it's going to expand. C-U-R. Yep, it did it.
Did it? Okay, perfect.
Place cursor here. Okay. So wherever you want the cursor to, then after it expands, you need it to go back to a certain place. You're going to insert where you need it to go back to, and you're going to insert this position cursor here. So place that where you need the cursor to go back to. So in this case, I needed it to expand, and then I needed it to then take the cursor back to where the comment is.
Right.
Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, okay, I'll ask one more question, even though I said one more a second ago.
You got it.
I work alone, but a lot of the people in our community work with teams. So I understand that you can work with teams through TextExpander and share things,
absolutely can. Yes, you absolutely can. And we encourage that. It's It's the easiest way to be on the same message and not have to duplicate work. If one person has a really great snippet for something, you can share it with everyone and they can all use that same snippet. I'm going to send you some information about that. Would you like to have someone reach out to you and give you way more information that I know about it?
Well, let me look at the information first, because like I said, I work alone. The only thing I thought might be handy is I work with like subcontractors and stuff. I just don't know how many of them are using TextExpander, but if they were, I didn't know if people all had to be on the same account to share things, or if you could share things between people in completely different organizations.
So you can share things with people in completely different organizations. You do. So the teams is one account that you add or members of that team to, but it doesn't mean that they automatically see your personal snippets. You can decide what snippets are seen and shared. So there is an administrator of it.
Gotcha.
There is an administrator of it. But you can share, with people who aren't on the team.
Okay.
You can. Perfect. You would just determine which of those snippets you can share. But I'll send you some information about it.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate you giving me the little tour here.
I
close TextExpander and then I forget to go. I'll type something 500 times. I'm like, I really need to open TextExpander and just put this in here.
And save myself and my suggestion, when those times when you're like, I know I have a snippet for this, just do Command //. That'll jog your memory. You'll type in what you can remember about it and just click it and add that, and it'll expand. It'll click the snippet you want and it'll expand immediately.
Well, TextExpander is worth its weight in gold for sure.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Well, Kyle, I'm going to send you a copy of this video. I'm going to send you some info on Teams, okay?
Perfect. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.